That's affluent, right? Is that when you grind your own beans? No, I guess if I roasted my beans, that'd be over the top. But I grind my organic Cuban beans, and it's fresh prince. I'm the Fresh Prince of
You are the
Germantown,
Fresh
Tennessee.
Prince. Fresh Prince. I can't even say it. It's a
You know
tongue
what?
twister.
I think I've had too much coffee. All right, after this sip, we're going to get rolling. We're going to get started. Here we go.
I'm using deluxe Blue Seas Hotel beautiful paper coffee cups with my own tea because I drink tea. I travel with my own very fresh tea bags in foil bags, and just pop it right through. There we go. So I'm coming to you live from San Diego, California, right on the beach, and looking forward to it. Let's jump on in.
All right, Dan. Thank you. And everybody, welcome. I'm Stuart. That's Dan. Dan's my special guest. Dan's also been a friend for a lot of years in this business, so it's truly a pleasure to have you here. Hey, folks, if this is your first time here, because whenever I have a special expert guest, see, what I do is on the Ask Stuart Hour, and there's no slides, so don't think the slides are not changing. This is an open dialogue. It's unscripted. Nobody knows what's going to happen next. It's up to you, the folks at home, to type in stuff that you want to know. And it's anything groups or anything about your business. Okay? And if you want me to unmute your mic, just type in, hey, Stuart, unmute my mic. I'll let you know when I do it so I don't catch you sneezing or the baby crying or something like that. And I'd love to hear your beautiful, magnificent voice. I'd even love to see your face if you're bold enough to turn your mic on. So just know that's an option too. You can ask me, you can ask Dan. Let's share best practices here. First, I want to give Dan an opportunity to give us your elevator speech. You know, if there's anybody out there who doesn't know you, tell them, who are you and what do you do?
Well, it's quite simple. I'm Dan Chappelle. I'm better known as the Wealthy Travel Agent. Been in the business now for a number of years. I started out my career working on cruise ships and found that most of the problems we were dealing with back in those days, and this was back in the early 90s, tended to be travel agent related. So as I got off the ships, I opened up a cruise-only travel agency, and I was very fortunate. Over about a 10-year period, grew it from nothing into one of the larger sellers of cruises in North America, for that matter, not just the United States. After we sold the company, I had the opportunity to go work with a gentleman by the name of Charlie Dunwoody, who's a mutual friend of ours, and you probably know him from Holland America with the Cruise Holidays program. And from there, went on to when Expedia bought Cruise Ship Centers, they brought me out to start and run the U.S. part of the operation for them out in Seattle. And my next step after that was with Windstar Cruises. They were just coming out of bankruptcy. I didn't know a whole lot about being a cruise line sales executive, but I figured it out real quick. And we were very fortunate in the 3.5 years I was there. We basically went from bankruptcy to Condé Nast's #1 cruise line, small ship luxury cruise line in the world. So a lot of stuff happening there. My background is primarily in the agent side of the business. I've had a very fortunate career, made a lot of money doing this with groups and affluent travelers, and just, I focus on the margins and not on the volume, and I'm here to help share that information as much as I can with you guys.
Excellent. Thanks, Dan. And we're going to get to, I know you just published your very first book, which looks awesome. We'll talk about that later, and
yep.
I want to make sure I want to ask you about it.
Sure.
I want to start off, though, asking a question, and then folks, start typing in here. I'm going to get back to the questions just a second here, but it looks like you've made your specialty, the name of your business, The Wealthy Travel Agent, and your book, and your focus is the affluent traveler stuff. What is it? Is that in the eye of the beholder, or is it really something? I mean, is this a specific target? Because then we're going to dig into specifically groups. What does it mean? How do you compare a non-affluent group to an affluent? But before we get there, give us an idea of what this is all about and why you chose that niche.
Well, there's a number of reasons why I chose the niche. One, that's my area of expertise. As an agency owner, as a frontline travel agent, I sold high-end product, world cruises, just about every high-end product that was out there. But the reason I got into it was, and many of you who've been in the business for a while may have heard of Commodore Cruise Line. At one point, my agency was one of the top sellers of Commodore Cruise Lines in the world. But then I looked at the books and saw, you know what, we weren't making any money selling that. It was high volume, but we weren't making any money. And in fact, we were losing money on just about every transaction, because the cheaper the product, the less well-traveled that person is and the higher maintenance they were. So we were putting a lot of time into it. So did a kind of a 180-degree turn, turned the agency around, and focused on selling high-end product that focused on groups, world cruises. It's a mindset. You have to get past the notion that everybody's looking for a deal. They're not. There are a lot of people out there who are focused, who will spend $20, $30, $40, $50,000 a person and more to get the type of vacation that they want. And they will do that on a regular basis. They tend to be pretty loyal to you, so if you take good care of them, they just want to be able to make a phone call and you take care of it. That's not to say that they're not looking for good value in a deal, but the money is out there. And the number of people who are actually qualified to handle that type of business is relatively small. But one of the things I want to make sure everybody understands, you don't have to be in a high-end consortia or a high-end agency to do this. Anybody can sell to an affluent traveler. And the market is growing exponentially right now. As the baby boomers, I was born in 1964. I'm in the last year of the baby boomers. There is a huge amount of money that's out there in the marketplace. In fact, I think statistically I saw that over 50% of the discretionary dollar that's out there to be spent is in the hands of the baby boomers. And so the market is there. It's relatively untapped. It's growing. You look at just in the luxury cruise segment, they added, I believe it was 47% to the overall inventory that's available there. So it's there. They recognize it. You look at brands like Crystal, who are branching out and branching their brands into different products, river cruising, private jet tours. I mean, those are huge money makers. In fact, that was my very first six-figure sale was a private jet tour. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are a number of people out there, and you just have to open your mind up and be willing to, ask for a lot of money and not be afraid to do that. So it's a great segment that's out there. You can make a ton of money on it. You got to have a little bit of guts. You got to do some work to get it. But you know what? It's the money is basically there to be picked up off the street.
I want to thank you, Dan. I'm going to ask the first question just a second, but I want to catch up with the comments here. Hey, Rich is back in house. Nice to be back. Hello, Julia. Hello, Patty. Patty Katz, she says she loves both programs. Cool. Beth is here. Good morning, Beth. Denise is here. First time, Denise. Welcome, everybody. All right. Now, I'm going to ask Dan a direct question here, but I want to know, everybody who's on right now, we've got a really nice-sized audience. Is anybody currently doing what they would consider affluent or luxury-type groups? And just share it with us. I'm just curious to see what your last one was or one you're working on. So that we can talk about that. So, Dan, my question is this, because one of our great boot camp members, Hans, he had asked a question, knowing what you know now, if you were to start a group cruise business of your own, what primary area? So let's just assume that we're talking, of course, luxury and affluent. So, right. Dan, let me ask this question. If it was you, if you got back into the agency business in 2 hours from now, 1 hour from now, okay, all right, what would be the first step you would do to assure your success in the group affluent niche? What would you set out to do?
Well, first thing I would do is contact the suppliers that are within my area of expertise. I wouldn't just go out there and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to go after group business for affluent travelers. I'm not going to do that at all. My area of expertise tends to be in world cruises, private jet tours, things like that. I'm not a guy, if you want an FIT group trip or any type of trip across Europe where you're going hotel to hotel to hotel, I'm not the guy to call for that. But if you are looking for that world cruise, that private jet tour, then you come to me. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to the suppliers. And I'm going to let them know I'm going to have a written business plan, just one page, just something pretty simple, and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. My intent is to focus on your products and your destinations, and I need to learn as much as I can about them right now. Here's my base level of knowledge, but then I want to learn more. Because one of the reasons why affluent travelers in general are going to come to you is because you specialize. You're an expert. You're giving them something that they can't get anywhere else. And you take that knowledge, then you start building your business off of that. Now, you've probably heard the notion, follow your passion and money follows. It doesn't necessarily work like that. You have to be able to monetize what you know. So make sure that what you're passionate about, make sure that what you're an expert at is something that is a marketable product.
Okay, with that said, if I'm the agent, must I be affluent to get that business, to talk that language? Or, Dan, do you believe it's something I can learn, adapt to? Or when you say passion, must I already be living that affluent lifestyle?
No, absolutely not. In fact, for most of us, we serve other people as travel professionals. That's our job is to serve. Just like police officers or other people serve other people. Our job is to serve our clients. It's not to necessarily be equals to them, but it's to understand their product. It's to understand their needs. It's to be able to understand and have them gain their trust. Because more than anything else, once you've gained their trust, once you've figured out what they want, because they're pretty specific about what they want. Once you've done all of that, well, then they tend to be pretty loyal to you because they don't want to have to go through this process over and over again. They want to be able to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Dan, we want to do this or we want to do that," and they do that because they already know one. I know what their wants and needs are. I know what type of airplane tickets they want if I'm doing their air. A lot of times they do their own because they have their own millions and millions of American Express points or whatever. But I can get them the rooms they want. I can get them the amenities that they want. I can do a lot of stuff for them, and all they got to do is pick up the phone. I had one gentleman. He was a world cruiser. They would book it themselves on board each time. And I would get the notification, and I knew exactly what steps I needed to do from there. And when they came home, all the ducks were in a row. Everything was exactly the way it needed to be. Boom. And what you'll find as you build a business with more affluent travelers, they have realistic expectations, and they are a lot easier to work with than your $2.99 Carnival cruise people because they're well traveled. They know what they're getting. Their expectations are real. They tend to be professional people overall. Are they demanding? Yes, because they want what they want. But it's your job to ask questions. In the process along the way, what's important to you? Why do you want to do this? All of that, and to pull it all together.
Or particularly when it comes to groups, let's focus for a second. And then I'm going to go back to I see there's comments and questions coming in now. Thanks, everybody. Bring it, and welcome. Diamond, you just joined. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Are the expectations different, Dan? You said it's actually, there's a sense that it's easier to work with an affluent traveler versus someone who's buying a $2.99 weekend quick getaway. But what are their expectations? Should our agents on right now, should they be prepared to do something, deliver something, say something different to the affluent traveler?
Well, I would say, don't volunteer a discount right off the bat, which is typically what I have found over the years is what happens because they get wowed by the dollar figures. You can make $1,000 commission, $10,000 commission. Well, you know what? I think I need to give some of that back.
Yes.
You don't have to do that, and most of the time it's not expected. When I said earlier that they want a deal, they want to feel like they're getting value. They don't usually want it to come out of your pocket. Most of the time, because it's in their first rodeo. Most of people in the travel in a luxury setting or travel in this lifestyle, it's not their first trip. And so, they want you to squeeze the supplier as hard as you can, but they don't necessarily want to see you suffer either.
Yeah.
And it's more, to them, it's more important about you delivering what you promise than getting the cheapest price, because they've been down that cheapest price road before. And nobody wins when it's the cheapest price.
Yeah.
Nobody does.
I want to enunciate, I think I pronounced that word correctly, a comment you said, which is, hey, the commissions are pretty darn good when you look at commissions on a more luxury product where the price point is higher. Folks, agents, listen to me. Don't ever feel guilty about making real good money, because that's what you should be making. In fact, you've heard me say it on this show before, and when I go out and speak, and I know Dan's going to agree with me, is that look, if you're going to sell the off-the-shelf, bare-bones, stripped-down product, then frankly, all you deserve is the commission, maybe. But if you're going to get into the group game and be serious about it, and Dan, in just a second, I'm going to ask you about what do affluent travelers like included in the package, because in boot camp, we don't talk off-the-shelf, bare-bones, stripped-down product, because especially affluent travelers, they don't want the stress. They don't want to have to worry that they're going to miss on something. So I'm going to ask you, Dan, in a second, what are some of the things that they want, that they need, that they expect, where me, little Stu Cohen, when I go on my trip, I may never think of a private jet or something, whatever. But we'll get to that in just a second. But remember, friends, that's to be successful in the group business. It's not about price. It's about, as Dan said, value. And final point, then I'm going to get to your questions and comments. Okay, a commission. Now, Dan is a former supplier. I think you're going to like this. With all due respect to suppliers, a commission is just a tip. It's a gratuity. Friends, you can't survive or thrive on just commissions, man. You've got to mark it down or net it down and build a price point that you feel that you deserve by putting this incredible package together. You agree with that, Dan?
I totally agree with that, because here's why. If I ask the question, okay, how many of you would like a net rate or would you like a 20% commission? Most of them are going to say, I want a 20% commission. So why? Because if you were to net it out, you're going to make more money. You can add as much as you want onto that. Same thing as and as a supplier, okay, we would do bonus commissions. So as a bonus commission, if you got a $100 bonus commission, or let's say you're making 16% commission and I gave you a $100 bonus commission, or you got a 20% commission, what are you going to take?
Yeah.
Well, you might take the 20% commission, even though the 16% plus the 100 might actually net you more. It's because you think most travel professionals think in terms of commission, not in terms of margin. Yeah. And margin is where you make your money. And you don't have to, particularly when we're talking about groups, you're putting a package together that should not be able to be shopped.
Yes.
Or if it can be shopped, it can't be easily shopped.
Right.
So part of that package that you're building, and here's the most important thing in my opinion, is you have to be able to communicate the value of the package that you've put together. Let's say it's a spec group. You can do those. But you've got to be able to communicate. One of the questions I probably get more than anything else when I do webinars and stuff is, Dan, you talk about value. You talk about me communicating my value. How do I do that? Well, you got to talk about yourself. You got to tell, what do you bring to the table? Same thing with your group. What's in there? To the question you're about to ask me, I think you should ask me now because I'm on a roll.
And cue Dan, go.
What do they want included?
Right.
Package.
We want to know. We want to know. Give us some ideas. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna give you a good example. If you want to know what you need to include, emulate the companies that sell to affluent travelers and luxury travel, and that's all inclusive. Now, to be fair, you look at all inclusive, and it primarily talks about drinks. It talks about transfers. Some of it is excursions, whether it's on a tour or on a thing. So, I think when you are putting your own package together, be cognizant of the group that you're targeting. For instance, if you're doing river cruising, you're going to go after older people. Bus excursions are kind of the norm. But older people also aren't heavy drinkers in particular. So that part of the inclusiveness may not be as big of a value. I personally quit drinking about almost 4 years ago now. So that part of the package is not as appealing to me. So it may be that you offer an option of a all-included or inclusive of beverages and not. Because this is your group you're building. Now, I'm not talking about something that's general you're buying off the shelf from somebody else.
Group.
Yeah, so you put those options in there. But ultimately, most affluent travelers, they like to have cocktails. They don't necessarily like to have a lot of them, but they also don't like to sign a lot of checks either.
Okay, so they don't like reaching into their pocket or swiping the card every time. They just want it when they want it.
Exactly. So you put together a package that delivers that. When it comes to excursions that you put together as part of that, the side trips and things like that, you don't want to go and stay at a Holiday Inn. You want to put them up at a Four Seasons. You want to put them up in nice accommodations. I mean, I'll give you an idea. The hotel I'm in right now it would probably be a 3-star hotel. That if we were looking at the circuit, I'm loving it because it's right on the beach. You can't see this because right out my window I got the Pacific Ocean crashing in, but it's very convenient for where I want to be. But if I were to buy a vacation package, this is the last place I'd want to be. I want to be somewhere where there's a bar, there's a restaurant, it's a higher end property that all contributes to the value of the package that you're delivering. Now, the one thing that you don't have to include is airfare. That should always be, in my opinion, that should be an optional thing because you can put out different prices for it. So here's your coach fare, here's your negotiated first class fare or business class fare. But I also have, personally, I have a couple million American Express miles that I can use. So I would use those. I would opt to do my air outside. And typically you're not making any money on airfare unless you get a net rate on something through a consolidator or something you can mark up. Yeah, with a group. That's the only time you really want to deal with that.
I want to. The next question I'm going to ask you, and keep peppering in, Dan, because I'm going to get to the boards here. A lot of comments, questions coming in. Keep peppering in stuff that you've seen in the past that you've done, or you as working on the supplier side. Great group producers have included into the package because we want more of those ideas. And part 2 to that question. This is a big question, and again, you spent so many years on the supplier side, the agency side, and so forth. One of the biggest challenges, Dan, that agents face today, particularly in my boot camp, who are very aggressive, they're eager, they're ambitious, and they want to net down and margin it up, mark it up, is how do you collect the payments, the overpayments, this kind of stuff, because it gets kind of dicey. So if you had any ideas on that, we've talked about it at length, and agents have different strategies. But so I want to get to those two, and I got a lot more questions for you. But just keep those in mind. Let me get to the boards here. Sandy, hey Sandy, says all of her cruise sales are luxury lines, which is awesome. And I know Sandy, you do a lot of groups too. So thanks for participating and share best practices if you would. Congratulations, that's awesome. Peter said would love to get there. Peter wants to do more affluent groups. See, and one thing I want to just say, everybody, is that the word luxury, the word affluent, they're different words because you can take, right, Dan, you can take a mass market, if you will, and I love them with all due respect, cruise or resort, okay, and they can get a suite. They can get some luxury add-ons, and everyone has a different sense of what luxury is to them. Heck, in my airport here, there used to be a store that said it was everything luxury. And guess what the price point was? $10. So luxury means different things for different people. But if you look it up, affluent has a different meaning. It's really a more fundamental lifestyle. So
that's exactly right. It's a lifestyle that a number of people actually choose to trade up to. It's not necessarily that they're wealthy people. It's they're people that they want to, they'll sacrifice in certain areas of their everyday life so that they can afford to go on vacation in a style that's above their means per se. That is very common, and there's a book called Trading Up that I would highly recommend people, if you haven't read it, get it and check it out, because it explains what that's all about, and it's a wonderful thing. But yes, it's important to remember it's a lifestyle, because what that's going to do, it's going to, think about it in your mindset. You're focused, you got tunnel vision right now. This is the luxury person. This is the affluent. You start thinking lifestyle, whew, it expands tremendously your potential prospect pool.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad we focused on that, because I knew that had to come up with conversation. We need everyone who's on right now. If you're not in that business, I know Sandy, you are, you get that, folks. You know, big difference in meetings and a lifestyle and their expectations when they're on a trip. Truly being treated royally. And I just want to make this comment too. You know, we talked before, Dan, you mentioned about an agent expressing their value. And agent friends who are here for the first time, maybe meeting us both for the very first time, you're going to hear it said right here, right now. I'll tell you what you're good for, my friends. I'll tell you exactly what you're good for. 3 things. Number 1, you reduce stress and risk. Number 2, you add value and convenience. And number 3, you transform the whole experience. And if you don't do those 3 things on every booking, be it FIT or group, then you're not worth your salt. And they can book it online. What do they need you for, man? You have to demonstrate those 3 things, or else why would I book to you? Why do I need you? Okay, here we go. Karen says yes, she booked a client for Silver Sea World Cruise in 2014. Man, that's something apparently when you book a world cruise, I mean, that's like getting an award you put up. You're like, look what, it's like a major accomplishment.
Oh, yeah, it's a big deal.
Good stuff. All right, here we go. Wendy, what is the specific benefit of reaching, okay, Dan, give us a short answer because we got a lot of stuff here. Wendy wants to know, what's the benefit specific of reaching out to suppliers, telling them or asking them about the affluent business that you want to get into it?
Well, first of all, you want to have a good relationship with those suppliers, because if you get yourself in a pinch or anything else, you're more likely to going to get some help if you've got a good relationship with one of your, with your supplier rep or the group department or whatever. Things happen. Things happen. If they don't know who you are and you're just another travel agent that's in their queue, they're not going to be as generous as they could be if you have a relationship with them. They also want to focus on people. If they know that you're focused on their product, they're going to give you some attention. It's important. Relations. This whole business, it is all, whether it's with the client or whether it's with the prospect or whether it's with the supplier. It's all about building relationships. And you're going to find your supplier reps, as you probably know, they tend to move jobs maybe every 3 or 4 years from one line to another. So by having that relationship, you don't have to start over every time somebody goes anywhere. But you'll find that you'll be able to get extra amenities. If you run into a situation that you need, because sometimes you do, even with your own groups together, you're going to have the guy that's going to sit out there and say, well, I can get it direct for X number of dollars, but and I don't really care about this or that. And you know what? They may not, but you want them as part of your group because you get them in and get the experience. And I'm not saying you want all business. You don't want all the business, because just like with some of the lower end business stuff, you want to let some of this walk away. Right. But the supplier can help you if you need extra amenities, if you need extra shipboard credits, and this is all business that you do. It's important that you have a great relationship with because you're the middleman. You got to have a good relationship with the supplier, and you need to have a good relationship with the client.
Right, and I want to add on to that. It's a great question, Wendy. Is that if I was, because I played field sales. I did field sales for many years with a couple of lines, and I will tell you this. The greatest single question I would get was, Stuart, tell me what those guys are doing that I'm not. Okay? Because, man, your reps are banging on the doors of agents all over the state, the city, whatever, and they see what's working, what's not. So ask them that question. Tell me what I'm doing wrong, what I can do better. And they'll share with you, because your success is their success. If I get you to sell more of my product, I hit my goals, man. We're truly in this together. Number two, the best question that you can ask is, hey, I'm working on a group. Can I count on you to help me with my presentations? Because in boot camp, and Dan, you may not know this, and folks in boot camp know this. If you're not in boot camp, you don't know this, but I have reinvented the group launch. You know, we can have the best group opportunity, best group leader, best theme, best everything. And then when we go to launch it, it it bombs because we don't promote it right out of the gate. The suppliers have been teaching the same old school method that just doesn't work anymore. And I do it's called a group launch sequence. It's a sequence, and what you want to do is get that rep involved in that sequence because let me tell you something, consumers are very impressed. If you've got a BDM, a DSM, or whatever, who's going to participate in the presentation, plus they bring another level of integrity and of knowledge. So I just want to add on to that. Sandy, I'm going to buzz through here. Dan, just give me a second. Sandy says it's very helpful to experience at least one luxury cruise yourself so you know how they are different. And I couldn't agree with you more because it is highly experiential. You can have a pretty shiny brand new ship and it could be mass market, and you can have an older ship because sometimes these luxury lines are old. They may be older hardware, but it's the software, man. It's how you are looked at, treated, talked to, loved on. Wow, the feeling is so different. I know you got something to say, Dan. Hold on, because this is such a big thing. It's experiential. So I know, when I was a supplier, when an agent would say to me, "Well, Stuart, I can't sell it until I've experienced it," I would say, "Baloney. You can't experience every hotel, every ship, every product in the world, but you know what? When it comes to certain destinations, when it comes to a river cruise, when it comes to a luxury product, an affluent product, you do. You need to, because you're going to come back a different person." Hans says, great information. Thanks, you bet, my friend. Sandy, my clients want new experiences and will accept a very high price if I can show them value for the dollar, which will allow them to accept the price. You bet. Dawn says, Dan, question, are there specific suppliers you would recommend? Private jet intrigues me, but where do you find that? I've narrowed my brands for 2017. I know I want to work with the big five, which are mainly exotic. So, Dan, any thoughts on where you find these, not necessarily the big suppliers, but these peripheral, high-end, affluent luxury type suppliers that you add into the package and will give you a net rate or a commissionable rate?
Sure. Actually, there's a number of resources through consortia. Depending on what, if you're a member of a host agency who's a member of a consortia, you have resources through there. If you're with Virtuoso, I think they call it Virtuoso Direct. They're direct suppliers. Ensemble has theirs. Signature has theirs. Travel Leaders all has their own destination. So start there and go out. But my suggestion, my recommendation would be, when you're starting to get into this, before you start looking for suppliers, I would encourage you to focus on a destination first or an experience first. So if it could be, Southeast Asia. It could be the destination you're focusing on. It could be world cruises. That could be the product that you're focusing on. The reason I say focus on and in particular in Europe, focus on the river regions as opposed to individual lines, because here's the thing. The itineraries are fairly static. They don't change. You're going to go to the same ports. You're going to go to the same cities. You're going to do the same things no matter what brand you're on. So start with that first. Do destination first, then product second. That way, because when you're particularly in the affluent line, they're looking for you to help them. Okay, when they go ashore on their river cruise, they don't necessarily want to take the bus tour.
Right.
What do you know about the region? Now, if you know that region and then you're putting together your own river cruise group, then you can go to these specialty wineries or take private tours through the Abbey and Milk or things like that, things that are going to differentiate yourself. So back to the question of how you find those suppliers, you're going to find them, one, you're going to find them through your study of the region. You're going to come across them. Two, you're going to come across recommendations. Use social media, get on the boards. Don't believe everything you hear and say, but look at you can be cognizant of who they are. LinkedIn is a good one. Check out the regions. I would encourage you to go to my LinkedIn profile because I'm linked into a number of small niche luxury suppliers all over the world that, and I don't take everybody, but I'll vet them out a little bit. But ultimately, the best place to start, particularly if you're really just now getting into this and wanting to break into the group part of the business, is start with your consortium and host agency. Because they've already got their core suppliers that are set up that they're working with one-on-one. They work with net rates. I mean, those guys they're used to. They would prefer to work with you on net rates as opposed to give you a commission. It's easier for them to take one payment from you rather than to take a payment and then have to cut a check back.
Yep. And by the way, we keep talking about netting down this kind of stuff. I know there's some not just travel professionals, but business people in general who are maybe uncomfortable with that, who are not expert at using Excel or spreadsheets. You certainly either have your accountant do this for you if you're uncomfortable, or I have in boot camp, because it's not just tips and tools, it's templates too. I've created an Excel spreadsheet. You just plug the numbers in and it'll net it down. And then of course you can even put in variables of how much your markup wants to be. But let me just say this one more thing about that. Either do the whole group net it down and mark it up. Don't start messing around, because if you don't mark up something that you think is commissionable, it gets messy and ugly. Yeah. So when you're out there looking at all of these smaller high-end suppliers, most maybe not be used to giving a commission. They just automatically operate on a net rate program. And
that's very true. Most of them, that is the price they're going to give you is going to be a net rate. Yeah.
Okay. Ramona asked if this being recorded. Absolutely, I record every one of these. You can one day people are going to look back and go, because I'm going to be a big star. And they can look at my old stuff and go, oh, there's Stuart when he was 53 years old. Well, he doesn't, and I'm just kidding. Everything's recorded, and because this is a special guest edition with Dan Chappelle, wealthytravelagent.com, you're going to tell us about your new book shortly, I promise. I want to know about it. You can go onto my YouTube page or send me an email, and I'll send you the link. And yeah, but the ones that are just me with the boot campers, those are private. The only way to attend that, where it's just us kids, is to be a member, a boot camp. Give it a shot. It's cool. I'm going to combine these two questions here. Hi Denise and Wendy are asking this question. Where's a good place to start finding this elusive subset of clients? And Denise worded it this way: how do you cold call on clients, or can you cold call on clients to get your foot in the door to sell this product? So, I want to answer this too, but Dan, I want to ask you first, then tee it off to me. How would you suggest, if these agents right now, if they want to get in this business, they're salivating for it, they realize there's a need for it too, because we know that consumers don't like, the real smart ones don't like booking online because it's scary, it's risky, they're going to get there and miss a lot of things. You guys know that, so you got to help rescue them. But Dan, where would you, suggestion, how do you break in? Where do you find these people?
Well, I teach a technique that I call dynamic prospecting, and it's not so much cold calling. You have a list of some sort to begin with, so you can use that on part of your marketing. But I focus on prospecting. What I teach isn't marketing. You got folks like Stuart and other folks that focus on the marketing aspect, and there is a difference between marketing and prospecting. Prospecting is a very important part of the sales process, and they're two very different disciplines. Prospecting, I would say, you all have what you call your circle of influence of friends and people that you know, and at any given time in anybody's life, you have probably 25 or so. Right. So these are people that you see at least once a month and that kind of thing. So you make a list of those. Make a list of who they are. Okay. Now, once you know what those are and you know what you have to offer, whether you've got your group put together, you reach out to those folks and say, hey, I just wanted to check with you. You're someone that I know, someone I respect, and I'd like your opinion. Who do you know that might benefit or want to join me on this cruise to the Danube in Europe? Could you give me a couple of names? And you know, you do it a little bit more sophisticated than that, but that's how you come across. And of course, people are going to say, yeah, well, I know so and so, and they might be interested in this, and you just start building on your list from there. Now, once you have that prospect name, then you reach out directly to them and say, you know, I was just talking to Stuart, and Stuart suggested I give you a call that you might be interested in taking this, you know, joining me on this cruise through the Danube. Well, you've got a warm introduction there through your friend, through Stuart. You're getting to them. You're fulfilling a need. You know, one of the things that you've all probably done is in that first level of circle of influence of people that you have, you know, they're your friends, they're your family. You've always had some of them reach out to you and say, hey, you know, can you find this cruise for me? Can you find that trip for me? And then they end up never booking it with you. Well, that happens. Every single one of us has had that happen. Well, the reason is they don't want to book with you because they don't want to jeopardize the relationship that they have with you. So they're more comfortable booking with somebody that they don't know well. And that's why this dynamic prospecting works, is by reaching out to second and third level prospects down the line. These are people you don't have close relationships with. They're more likely to book with you than they are with someone else. In fact, statistically, it's about 15% of all the business you'll do will be from your immediate circle of influence. 60 to 65% will be from that second and third level. Then it drops off after that. So focus on getting to that level.
Yep. And to that, there was a comment on one of the boards recently, one of the group boards, I think, and the issue was that how come my closest friends and family, they use me for everything, but they don't book, and that's it. It's a psychological thing, subliminal thing, subconscious, whatever you want to call it. And I want to give you a quote from Mike Marshev, Dan, who is a mutual friend of ours. Mike Marshev puts it just like this, and listen up, everybody. This is important. There's two kinds of people in the world: those you can help and those you can't. And even though they're your best friends and family, and you know it's in your love circle, you desire to help them. You know you're going to love on them, take care of them. You know you're going to do better for them than anybody else out there. There's just something out there. The people are afraid. They want to have the ability to come back and yell at you if something goes wrong, and they love you too much. And this is what Dan is explaining here. So that's really fascinating.
And it's also backed up by it was based on a study by a sociologist by the name of Mark Granovetter called "The Strength of Weak Ties," and that's where this is all backed up by. Is people don't want to jeopardize that relationship, and so they're more comfortable dealing with somebody that they don't know or barely know, and it helps to have that warm introduction. So that's how I would suggest that you get started with that. Now, a lot of people are afraid to pick up the phone and call somebody and ask them. But here's the thing about your friends, your immediate circle of influence of friends. They're going to be more, not everybody's going to help you, but a lot of them will. And the reason is because you're not asking them to buy anything. You're asking them to help you. And people just naturally like to help each other. So I think you'll do a good job there. Combine your prospecting with your marketing, then I think you've got a good niche there.
Good stuff. And Dan, I want to add on to that now. So listen, everybody, where do you find these people? And 100% do what Dan's talking about. And if you want to learn more about, that's when I have too much coffee. Go to his site, see what he's got, connect with him, and also I know some folks are asking about suppliers and stuff. So perhaps Dan. Go to Dan's LinkedIn,
sure.
Right?
You can go to LinkedIn. You can, if you want to send me an email directly, just send it to dan@danchappelle.com, and I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, and I'm also in the follow-up. I'm also going to give links too if they want to have a conversation with you and learn more, because there's so much here. But Denise wants it. Can you repeat the name and author of the book you recommended? The one before that you recommended, not the one you just recommended, but before.
Trading Up. The book is called Trading Up. I can't remember the author, but they were partners at the Boston Consulting Group. So it's a study, and the second one is actually one of the most influential studies in sociology called The Strength of Weak Ties. It's not a book. You don't want to get into that because it is literally PhD material. It's like a thesis. It's
above my pay grade.
Yeah, exactly. It's the gist of it. But yeah, so it's called Trading Up.
Okay, thank you for that. And Dom, I'm going to get to yours. Sam, I'm going to get to yours next. I want to mention this too about finding these clients. I'm going to give you a different perspective now. One strategy is going out to find them. The other strategy is making sure you are well prepared so that they find you. Now, let me just give you a word of caution, everybody. You can go out there and do all the prospecting and do exactly as Dan teaches, and you'll find them, you'll meet them, you talk to them. But the first thing they're going to do, my friends, the first thing they're going to do, if you can't say it's a friend of that's a referral, and even so they're going to do this, they're going to Google you. They're going to check you out. And when they find your website, when they find your social media, when they see you and touch you and learn more about you, if you're not talking the talk every place else and walking the walk every place else, they're gone. So it's one thing that you want their business, but remember what Zig Ziglar says and many others says, if you give enough other people what they want, you'll get what you want. So you gotta give first. You can't just want to take and make money. So what do you do then? All right, Stuart, okay, so what do I do? Here's what you do. And this goes to Dawn's question. Dawn want to know if you go to blow up your marketing and you want to restart, and let's just say you want to get into the affluent group business in a niche. Okay, what do you do first? First thing is, who are you? What do you want to do? Define clearly with clarity who you are, what you want to do. And number two, you have to create, even if it's a one-page website, it's called, Guy Kawasaki calls it, Who Am I Marketing? If you tell the story and if you share articles, if you're generous and you talk about affluent travel, you show pictures of affluent travel, you talk about it, you give top 3 tips, and you don't have to, don't be condescending or patronizing to them, affluent. They'll know it, man, if you talk about private jet or these inclusions, right? You don't have to use the words that you're an expert there. That's just it. If you speak the language that they speak, that lifestyle, and everybody wants tips, everybody wants to learn, then you will impress them with your knowledge and your passion for this kind of travel. And when you prospect, like Dan says, and they find you, they're going to say, I got the right guy, I got the right gal. Or if they've never heard of you before and they trip on you and stumble on you because they see that your website is talking a good game, you're speaking their language, you got a new client. So I wanted to tag that on with Dan said.
There's a good balance that you have to have between marketing and prospecting. Marketing tends to be more reactive, prospecting is more proactive. But my wife does this. We're walking down the street in London, and she sees a restaurant we want to think about going. What does she do? Mm-hmm. She doesn't go look at the menu. She pulls up Yelp so that she can see what it's all about.
Right.
Okay. They're gonna do the same thing to you.
Right.
So they are going to make sure that you're credible. That's the important thing, is being credible. Now, does that mean that you have to have experienced the product they're looking for? Not necessarily. It's always good. I highly recommend whenever you can, and not to do it necessarily as a fam trip. Do it as a full-paying passenger so you can experience it the way they are. But what I would suggest is, if it's an area that you haven't had the opportunity to travel to yet, is you have so many resources available on YouTube. I was asked to give a presentation on Dubai last year. I'd never been to Dubai, but you know what? I studied and studied and studied, and I knew more about Dubai than the supplier was that I was giving the presentation for. And you can do that. And so when I went to Dubai, it was almost like, I knew where all the pieces fit. And that's what you can do. You don't, so many people, travel agents, would tell me when I was at Windstar was, I can't sell you if I haven't sailed you. Well, that's the biggest line of crap I've ever heard. I've been doing this for a long time now, and what you're looking for when I hear that is, okay, that's a red flag. They're looking for a free trip for themselves, not necessarily something to do. So if you're willing to invest your own money in the resources to experience a product the way your passenger, the way your guest and client is going to experience it, then you will have a very different perspective, because it's a different experience going as a travel agent than it is going as a passenger. Sure. And you want to be able to give and be able to relate that to your customers. It makes you more credible in the long run.
Absolutely, positively. Thank you, Dan. All right, let's get to the boards here. Denise says she booked luxury land packages for Italy for families and incentives, which is great. Diamond says 80% of her group business is luxury affluent clients, which is awesome. So, Diamond, thank you. I do hope you'll, group kit member, I hope you'll share your expertise and some stuff on a private Facebook community. Sam has a great concept and question here. Dan, I want to ask you about this. She says she always upsells, never quotes the lowest price right off the bat, but she says high-end clients tend to ask her what's your planning fee or charge it. Dan, what's your feeling on separate fees, planning fees? Should agencies charge these fees straight out? Should it be part of the package? What's your take on that?
All right, so there's two ways to answer this. First, as a group, no, you shouldn't charge planning fees. That should all be in as part of because you've got your package, you've got that group. That's all built in. You should have already built in some sort of fee mechanism in there into your margins. Now, on an FIT basis, that's really up to you. I know that there's agents that have a hard time up front asking for a planning fee. A lot of times it's because they don't know what their value is. Maybe, and a lot of them don't even have a value that they can provide. It's, as you said in the very beginning, they're selling off-the-shelf stuff, and if you can't differentiate yourself and provide some sort of value, there's no way you can't charge a planning fee. Now, that said, so let's take a couple different tactics on this. If you are yes, you can charge a planning fee. Well, I think you might up front, you're gonna kind of eliminate some of your prospects there that aren't willing to do it up front. Obviously, if you charge a planning fee and they're willing to apply it to the first, to the booking, then more the better for you. If you're not comfortable asking for a planning fee, what you must do is change and cancellation fees. And I don't mean just cancellation fees. I mean changes. They call up, they want to make a change of any kind whatsoever. You charge them a fee, $150 per person. Just like the airlines do. The airlines charge these fees. You do the same thing. And as long as you present those fees to them up front, that's the key. If they know what they are up front, then you're less likely to, you're going to either collect them, you're not going to collect them, you're going to not get as many requests for changes, things like that. But when you start waiving fees, people say, oh, well, we'll waive fees for a good client. You know what? That's the worst thing you can do, because every time you touch a booking, it's essentially you're rebooking it. So it takes a lot of time, and you determine what your value is worth. I personally, if it was me, I would be charging, $150 for a change fee. My own cancellation fee would be probably half of what the supplier cancellation fee would be. From a planning fee perspective, I personally would probably not. And the reason is I already know what my topic is. I already know what my specialties are. I know I'm not doing FIT planning. If I was doing FIT planning, yeah, all day long. You pay me up front, and I'll plan it out for you. But here's my package. This is what I do. This is what I specialize in. No. So it's up to the individual, I think, agent as far as what value you bring to the equation, what your involvement is prior to actually getting the booking, and to be able to, and your ability to sell your value.
Hands down. And just to cap that off with, be confident. If you're going to put out a number, if you're going to say there's a fee, there's a charge, you need to say it with absolute steadfast confidence, because if the consumer hears any wavering, any uncertainty, any, well, will this be okay? More of a question.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Look, it's just like, and I know, Dan, the same goes for you, and everybody hang in there. I'm going to get to all the other comments that are here. I promise you, just a second. When I get a phone call for a speaking gig, and they ask me how much, it took a long time to get comfortable saying how much I charge. And I know they're either going to say, thumbs up, excellent, let's book it, or wow, that's over my budget. It's going to be one or the other. I'm not going to kick myself and say, geez, I should have charged more if it was too easy. No, because my fee is my fee, and I'm confident. And if you can't afford me, I'm sorry. I'll still love you. We'll still be friends. But the point is, it's confidence. You're going to be measured in how you answer that question or how you make that request.
Also, in how you present the price of the package that you're selling. So if you put together a group and you've got and the price is $10,000-$15,000 per person, you don't just say, well, is $15,000 okay? Is that too much? No, you say it's $15,000 and then just be quiet.
Bingo.
Let them respond. The first, don't then immediately say, well, I can knock this off or whatever. I see that happen a lot too.
Yep.
Just say, here's the price, and be quiet.
The hour always flies by. We got just a few minutes left. So, Dan, real quick, and then I promise I'm going to read everything that's been posted. But, friends, if you still have more questions, then please send me or Dan an email. I'm Stuart at stuartloydcohen.com, and I'll make sure we get them to Dan or ask Dan direct. And I know Dan, he's a great guy. He's awesome, and I know I'll follow up with you. We're here to help you guys. This is what we do. Your success is our success. So I want to make sure. Dan, just tell us real quick, and I know they go to your website, but I'm excited, very excited, Emma Press. You just published a book. Just tell us the name of it, what it's about, and then I'm going to jump back into the questions because I want to know. I want to tell them.
Yep, it's called Get Your Ship Together, and it's SHIP. And SHIP stands for Skills, Habits, Inspiration, and Planning and Performance. And it's the Get Your Ship Together, the Wealthy Travel Agent Guide to Sales. And it focuses on sales. What you're going to find is it's more anecdotal than it is analytical. It's a good read. It's based primarily on my experiences and experiences of others throughout my entire selling career. I'm not a marketing guy. I'm not ever going to profess to be a marketing professional, but I am a sales professional, and so I focus on prospecting, finding new clients, on the sales process, things you can do along the way to do that, and because so many people are very good at getting the clients, you got great marketing out there and they're coming in. What do you do when they show up? What do you do when they knock on your door? That's usually what I've found over the years where people kind of lose it. And I learned at a very young age, or I shouldn't say very young age, but I was advised when I first got into the business, said, Dan, this is a sales business. You focus on selling. Let the consortia, and this was a consortia exec telling me, he said, let us focus on the marketing part of it. You focus on selling. That's what you do. And he came from the insurance business, so it's a similar type of commission structure and stuff like that. As long as you focus on selling, you'll do very well. And he was right. I was very fortunate. I kept my eye on the ball that direction and did well. So that's what this book is all about. Is keeping this skills, habits, inspiration, and planning and performance to be able to be successful at sales.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Hang on there. We're going to roll through the final comments and questions. Sandy says, actually, two kinds of people are those you can help and those who don't yet know that you can help them. Thank you, Sandy. I couldn't agree with you more. Dawn said she's already Googling you, Dan, because we talked about what do you do when you meet somebody new. Neil, thank you, Neil. Trading Up is by Michael Silverstein. Michael J. Silverstein.
Yep.
Way to go, Neil. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks
awesome.
for that.
Yep. Slush fund. Sandy says she recommends adding some money per person to add a group fare. So as a slush fund, I almost couldn't pronounce that, in case something goes wrong, or you can buy somebody a gift, this kind of stuff. Great, great, great idea. Thank you, Sandy. Jean Ann says your fee is the announcement to the world of your confidence in yourself. Jean Ann, thank you. I want to read it again. Listen, everybody. Pull up a chair. Your fee is the announcement to the world of your confidence in yourself. I love it, Gina, and thank you. Patty says, thank you so much for this great info, especially on fees. I really needed that today. Have a great day, guys. Where is Dan's book available? Go to his website, yes, thewealthytravelagent.com.
It's actually, I'll have it up in a couple of days on the website,
okay.
And cool. You'll be able to go to Wealthy Travel. Just shoot me an email, and I'll make sure that I send you the link. So dan@danchappelle.com.
Cool. All right, we are out of time. Hold on, everybody. Whether you're in boot camp now or not in boot camp, I want to let you know that the next session is just me. It's just little old me, so that one's private. And look at that. I forgot to actually unplug my phone. I've never done that before during a live show. Number two, I will have two upcoming special guests. Ron Golaski, a very good friend. He's VP of National Accounts at Celebrity. He's coming to talk about fundraising groups. I finally found who I think is the greatest expert. He also is expert in corporate incentives because that's what he used to do, and charters. But we're going to talk fundraising groups. That's going to be open to the public. Watch for that. And also Mary Lynch from Royal Caribbean. She's going to talk about specific niches in Royal Caribbean too. So I'm going to keep bringing in experts every few sessions to help dive into areas where I want to learn too. I'm not the expert because I'm always looking to learn. And Dan, I want to thank you for being our special guest on this edition of the Ask Stuart Hour. Thanks, man.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, man. It's been awesome. I appreciate it. Great questions.
Hey, thanks, everybody. Appreciate you joining. Watch for the replay momentarily. Happy sales, everybody. Bye.